Coming up this half hour on Trending Today USA.
What is the latest with DACA? Plus, is free trade really good for America? And the latest from the USA Radio Network newsroom. You're listening to Trending Today USA. I'm Tom Hinchy. A federal judge on Tuesday night ordered the Trump administration to revive part of the program that protected people who were illegally brought to the United States as children from being deported, calling the administration's abrupt decision to end the program last year arbitrary and capricious. Here to discuss this is Eric Cedillo. He's the founder of the law offices of Eric Cedillo, PC. Mr. Cedillo practices law with offices in Dallas and San Antonio, Texas. Eric, welcome to Trending Today. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Eric, how does this U.S. District Judge, his name's William Alsup, how does he have the authority to issue a preliminary injunction ordering the DHS to resume accepting renewal applications from people who are already protected under DACA? Does he have that authority?
Well, he does. He does have the ability, of course, to issue an injunction. He's a federal judge, and based on some of the questions, constitutional questions or federal questions that are asked, he has the ability to make the actual ruling, make the entire nation comport with what his ruling states. And basically it's that. It's an injunction stopping the government from stopping portions of the DACA program. Of course, it hasn't been heard on the merits yet. It's simply an injunction that would allow the government to continue receiving renewals from the DACA recipients so that they could get their work permits and continue working.
Okay, so it's just renewals. He's not demanding that they accept new applications.
Right,
okay.
That's exactly right. That's an important distinction, I think, to be made. This hasn't been tried on the merits, and that's what he's suggesting. While we wait until it's heard by a trial on the merits, then I'm going to issue an injunction that allows these DACA recipients to continue work authorization and continue to contribute to our economy.
Mm-hmm. Does the Department of Homeland Security, do they have the authority to make decisions on DACA?
Well, they certainly do. That is what they did in terms of stopping DACA. Now, it usually comes from the president. The president decides he's going to stop the executive action which created it, and it's basically a direction to the Director of Homeland Security to stop the actual program, which was done by the interim at the time, Elaine Duke, and that was based in, and that's what the ruling's kind of all about. The judge was trying to determine how and why it was stopped, because that's one of the complaints of the plaintiffs, and he decided, based on the Attorney General's advice to Elaine Duke, that it would eventually be overturned or that it was unconstitutional, that it was based on an arbitrary and capricious manner, as opposed to, based on policy. They certainly have the ability to do it. And if they said it's our new policy that this should be a stop for whatever reason, I think they'd have less of a constitutional challenge on their hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, President Trump, he blamed the unfair court system in slamming the ruling, and he said, it just shows, this is what he said, it just shows everyone how broken and unfair our court system is when the opposing side, in a case such as DACA, always runs to the Ninth Circuit Court. What's the significance of the Ninth Circuit Court? Well,
they're really going to, filing in San Francisco, which, of course, California, that's where the Ninth Circuit is located. That's the appeals. Many would consider it a more liberal circuit, one in which you're looking to have those situations where if you want to have a better opportunity for a ruling, you'd go there, as opposed to perhaps filing it here in the state of Texas and the Fifth Circuit, which is much more conservative, which is what the state of Texas did in fighting the DAPA that was instituted back in 2014. So, this was basically brought by the Regents, the University of California, and they're, of course, in California, so that was probably the proper court to bring it in. But certainly there's a difference in the circuits and the different circuits around the country in terms of, the way in which they see the law.
Mm-hmm. Can we have immigration reform without a border wall?
I think that's. I think if we can get around the rhetoric in terms of what a border wall means, if you put it in terms of, hey, look, we've got to maintain border security, we've got to maintain, our borders in the sense that we can't just let anyone pass without us knowing who it is, as opposed to an actual physical wall that needs to be built. If we can get past that, we can figure out and stop the rhetoric behind it. Mm-hmm. I think there is a very good possibility that we could support support more monies towards taking care of that border, area, as opposed to calling it a wall, which kind of has a connotation that's been developed over a period of time by the Trump administration that it means something other than border security.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get past that, I think there's a good possibility that something could happen. I think in the next few days, hopefully, we'll get something out of the Senate that gives us an idea of whether or not this thing can get done before the 19th.
Mm. What is it that you do in your practice, Eric?
Well, I mainly do plaintiff's personal injury and immigration law. I'm also an adjunct over at SMU,
mm-hmm.
and I actually am a clinical professor there, and I have the opportunity this semester to take some students out to Karnes County, one of the actual facilities, and we're going to be helping some individuals with asylum cases and other things, some young people and women
mm-hmm.
Who've asked for asylum. So that's our big thing this semester.
I see. You say immigration law. So if somebody, and I don't know, this is why I'm asking, Eric. So if someone's wants to come to the United States, do you help them in some way, or could you explain a little bit more for me?
Well, we mainly do family-based immigration, individuals who are petitioning for, sponsorship of a spouse, perhaps a U.S. citizen sponsoring a spouse to become a green card holder,
mm-hmm.
In a variety of ways, just different family-based stuff. We do some business stuff as well in terms of visas that we require for businesses, sponsorship of employment-based immigration, things of that nature.
Sure. Well,
so
it sounds
kind of runs a gamut.
Yeah. Well, if I can make an assumption, it sounds like you support legal immigration, going through the proper paces to secure citizenship. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think, of course, we are a nation of laws, and I think if what we can do to kind of ensure that we continue doing that, it's one thing. The DACA recipients, as you mentioned earlier, were brought here not of their own volition, but by their parents,
mm-hmm.
and it's a situation where we have a number of them here in the country, and the reality is, I think we need to deal with that. And make sure that we're looking out for the best interests of the United States. And in doing that, I think taking care of these DACA recipients, it does that. Here in the state of Texas, we have over 120,000 DACA recipients. 100,000 of them are employed. If DACA goes away and they lose their work authorization, that's going to have a devastating effect on our economy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one state in the union. California is going to be incredibly impacted by this.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think we need to really address quickly.
Do you think that's why many Republicans or establishment Republicans and Democrats oppose this sort of thing? Because, as you're saying, we got all these people, they're being productive members of society, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you got to get out. It's like, oh, wait, where'd he go? I need this guy, but he can't work here anymore. So that would put a hole in the economy.
Yeah, I don't think there's any issue with respect to who the universe of DACA recipients, that there being a problem with them being here. I think it's the stuff that kind of comes with it. Is there going to be a pathway to citizenship? If so, how soon will they be, voting members? How long will it be before they actually become U.S. citizens? Is that going to have an impact on, a Republican Party, Democratic Party? So those are the things that certainly should be considerations for later on. But in the very immediate future, we really need to address this. And I really do think there's a bipartisan bent to having something happen. But unfortunately, I think with all of the immigration issues looming, it's going to be kind of difficult to do this in a comprehensive way. I think it's going to have a lot of piecemeal happening with respect to legislation coming out.
Yes, certainly. We're speaking with Eric Cedillo. He's the founder of the law offices of Eric Cedillo, PC. Eric, do you have a website?
We sure do. It's www.cedillolaw.com, CEDILLOLAW.com.
That's great. And you have law offices in Dallas and San Antonio, is that right?
Yeah, we sure do.
Well, that's great. Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me today. We can talk a little bit about this, and I hope we can talk about it again, see how this unravels, and maybe we can follow up again and see where this is all going. But I'm glad that you're taking time to help these people out. It's a hot potato, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And thank you so much for having me on today.
Okay, Eric. Nice to speak with you, and thank you for joining us on Trending Today.